Okay, so this is a rhetorical question, but I'll still give the answer in the end. So, why do they call it income tax? And why do they call it driver? And why do they call it vehicle instead of what it actually is? What it is that frees us, keeps us free from them. And of course, you probably know the answer if you've been thinking about this stuff. But it's all about categories and how they maintain an illusion of control depending on how they categorize us and our property. So if you have property, private property, they don't have control over it. Public property, they do. So if they call your private vehicle or private property that you use to drive a mechanical object as a vehicle, then they can claim that they have control over it because they've just recategorized it. The same thing with driving. If you're a driver, they claim to have control over drivers. And you go in and you get a driver's license, and so you're submitting to that, being in that category and giving them control. So if they call it income tax, they have control over it because they claim to have control over something called income. Deceptive as it is, it doesn't matter because we still submit to it, usually by contract or some act that we perform. So income tax is something that they claim that they have control over, whereas humans, free humans, they have no control over. So if you're a free human, a citizen of the state instead of a citizen of the United States, the federal government has no control over you. And so they want you to submit to being a citizen of the United States, whatever it takes to get you to do that. The benefit they derive from it is more than the benefit that we would derive from it. Otherwise, there would be no reason for them to do it. If the benefit we receive from it is more than the benefit they receive from it, then what's the point for them to do it? The person who writes the contract, which when you sign a federal contract or a contract that looks like a state contract that's really a federal contract, it's always going to be in the benefit of the person who wrote the contract. That's just the way it is. The people who write the contract write it to benefit themselves more than the people who are signing it. Same with a mortgage, same with a car. So if you go in and get a driver's license, you're basically signing a contract saying that you submit to being a driver and all those laws that come along with it instead of being a traveler. That doesn't mean that you've lost your right to travel. It just means that when you get pulled over and you give them the driver's license, they're under the assumption, based on the act that you just performed by handing over your driver's license, that you are a driver and not a traveler, which is why we have courts and the pleas and guilty or non-guilty. We can go in and clarify the topic. A lot of times, though, the judges are just as corrupt because they understand that the person who wrote the contract, the person who wrote the driver's license contract is going to benefit more, and that they work for the government, federal or state, it doesn't matter. It's the same when you think about the legal state being a federal state. Okay, so they can't tax something called human energy, human product, my private property, my private energy. They can't tax things like that because it's not within the realm of what they can do. It's not in the category. They can't call you a driver if you're a traveler unless you get a driver's license. They can't call your private method of transportation a vehicle unless you get it registered and you do all the things that they want you to do depending on what state you're in. And this works for a lot of different things. And if you want to read more about this categorization, there's a book called Minding the Law, written by two people. I don't remember their names right offhand. I think Armstrong might be one of them. So you can go out and look at that, but I'm sure there's plenty of articles on Google that you can look up and read about categorizations and how they use words and ideas and contracts and this idea of a benefit or force to get you to do things that really just puts you in a contractual state with the government or the legal state. So yeah, this is kind of a rhetorical question because a lot of people already know the answer to this, but some people out there are still oblivious to it. Like, share, and subscribe.